It's part 3 of our interview series with great engineer-producer Bill Schnee. The albums you see behind me, he worked on all of them. In this one, we talk about Steely Dan, Gaucho, and Asia.
What was the mindset? I mean, going into Gaucho as opposed to Asia. I mean, that's
okay.
After I mean, Asia, I was like, God, I was 17, 16, I think, and I remember everyone had it. Everyone had this album. Waited a little while, and then Gaucho came out, and Gaucho wasn't the same. But what was the vibe like going into from one album to the other?
Okay, the first thing that needs to be said is the only reason I'm on Gaucho is they took a song from Asia and put it on there. That's the only reason I'm there, is one of my tracks. And it's funny, when I was going up with Elliot Shiner, who mixed Gaucho, we were going up to accept the Grammy. As we're walking up, I said, can I just speak first? And he went, sure. And I spoke first to say, I turned to he and whoever else was there, Roger Nichols, I guess. And I said, guys, I'm really just along for the ride on this one. And Elliot jumped into the mic and said, no. If we didn't have your song, we'd still be working on that record. And for those that aren't dyed-in-the-wool fans of the band, that record was plagued with everything wrong imaginable. From Walter's girlfriend dying, to Walter being hit by a taxi cab, to having a song that they were loving that a second engineer erased. May he rest in peace. No, I'm sure he's still alive, but I don't think he's in the music business. And they tried to re-record it and never could. And so that's that.
So that song is lost in the ether?
Yeah, gone. It was erased, period.
But they never could get the vibe back for recording. Wow.
One of those things where it's still, and you know how those things can happen emotionally, emotion, we work on emotion, all of us that make music, and at least we're supposed to, I think. Music is emotional, so I mean, I certainly try to do that. And we'll come back to that sure, they had a version that they loved, and now it's gone, and so every time they do it, it's like, no, I think the other one was still better. It was still better. And to that other point, so here they come up with Asia, which I have to say, when Gary Katz called and asked me, would you like to record the next Steely Dan album? I went, let me think about it. Yes, I would like to do it. I really would. And I have to say, though, that there was more than just a little bit of hesitation as I thought about it, because Michael Amarty and Jeff Beccaro, some of my friends, had worked on the previous albums and told me about their somewhat maniacal ways of getting what they got, as good as it was. And I'm not the most patient person in the world, and I really like to work fast and shoot from the hip, like I said earlier, and all that stuff. So I was a little nervous about it, only to find incredible relief when we started the Asia sessions, because they were anything but that. They were, first of all, they were using nothing but the best professionals, musicians out there, period. And they were, we were doing virtually union type sessions. I mean, we started at 2:00. We never went late. Everything, there were charts for everything. Everything was just as peaceful as it could be. It was a no drug zone, and it was wonderful. And I don't know what went on in the overdub process. After I got the tracks, they went off and did the overdubs for 6 months to 8, 9, 10 months more, whatever. But here they came up with what I would hope most people would think was their best album to date. And so what do you follow up that with? You change absolutely everything. You go to New York. You don't record with the same type of band. You might have thought that you would do the same kind of thing again, but they went totally the opposite way. And from what I'm told, primarily by Jeff, who they did call for Gaucho to come and work, that they had him record a song with 3 different rhythm sections, and all they were looking for was the perfect drum track. They were after perfect whatever that means, drum tracks. And he said they would wear me out, and all they were looking for were the drums. And so whatever. And that search for perfection led them to financing Roger Nichols, the engineer that did a lot of the recording on that album, who was a very bright guy electronically, to build Wendell, as he called it, which was arguably the first drum computer, which would in essence play drums with samples, where you would get a sample of a drum, like Jeff's snare drum, and put it in, and it's Jeff's kick drum, so on and so forth, and the computer would play it. So without question, it would be by definition perfect. Now, as we all know, well, most of us behind the scenes know, because drum machines, came in right around that time, right at the turn into the 80s is when the drum machines started, being used by everybody. And if there was a problem, like many of us, including me, thought, maybe perfection is not what you're after in drums. Maybe there's a thing called feel. And so then the drum machine started incorporating buttons that you could push for feel, kind of thing. So it's quite interesting in that regard. But yeah, that was the beginnings of Gaucho, and where they went and how differently they went, and so on and so forth. And most people agree with you and I that Gaucho was not as good an album, but as Asia, still a very good album for sure. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Going through this book, there's just so many stories, like when Donald Walter, thank you. They didn't like Steve Gadd in one of the sessions. Stuff like that. I go, what? That's why this book's so important, because I'm getting stories and I'm going, I didn't know these existed.
Yeah, there's so many strange. I haven't seen Donald. I'd love to sit down with him and ask a few things. I wonder if he remembers that conversation. But even what bugs me even more, I don't know if I put it in the book, but why of all drummers, why wasn't Jeff on any of those sessions? He played on the previous records. They made reference to him when I caught them talking about Steve Gadd, and they said that the backbeat isn't laid back like his or Keltner's, and yet he wasn't on the sessions. I don't get it. And yet for Gaucho, they brought him to New York, and by the way, beat the living hell out of him.
But isn't there a possibility he was busy? Because obviously back then he was starting to get really busy.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose that is a possibility. I could have sworn I had checked that out at the time, but whatever.
We'll have more from Bill Schnee coming up in 3-4 days. His new book is out, Chairman of the Board, The Soundtrack of a Generation. There'll be links in the description of this video and to his website, where you can order the book. Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. Also, if you want to make a donation to the site, there's a link at the very top of the description. You can also pick up a t-shirt. I'm John Beaudin. Take care of yourself.